So, this video will be going over my personal design project that I've been working on over the past few months, as well as some industry related questions. Let's start with professionalism. Over the last few months, I've been cultivating a portfolio through the use of this devlog. Now, in terms of professionalism, it doesn't really shine in that regard, but I feel as though it shows me as a person quite well, which is something I wanted to achieve through my editing. Although, I feel as though it would have been a lot better for me to record myself making the game live. I think this would definitely add to the professionalism, as it would show my live workings and how I act while I'm doing the project. Outside of this channel, I've also made a portfolio website on Carrd. The website will be linked in the description as well as on the about page on the channel. Here, you'll be able to find my itch page, which has nothing on it yet, but I hope one day it'll have a lot of projects on it. On my Carrd, there's also videos on projects in the past before the channel was created, so that you can see some of my work before this has started, as well as information about me. I'll also create a playlist of the videos from the devlog series. I hope that doing this will make the videos more digestible and easier to watch. Now, I want to talk about the project. I stated in the first video before I started making the devlog series, the project is heavily inspired by the Mario and Luigi series. In fact, before starting the series, I had recently finished Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. The game is over 20 years old, but sparked a series of games that I personally really enjoy, the mechanics of which you rarely see in turn-based RPGs nowadays. The combat in the game is very deterministic of the player's skill, whether you're able to dodge an enemy's attack at the right time to do a counterattack or simply avoid damage entirely, or whether you're able to time your button presses to get the maximum amount of damage in your attacks. The attacks in the games are also very creative, all of which using different methods to get you to do the best damage possible. And the games use the whimsical nature of the Mario series to do this very well. Since Alpha Dream, the company that made the Mario & Luigi series, was dissolved back in 2019, I feel as though there hasn't been any games that can replicate the feeling of joy and fun that the Mario & Luigi series brought to me. Now, that's not to say that RPGs in the present day don't do this, but I feel as though the interactivity these games brought helped the player feel more involved in the main gameplay of the game, whereas a lot of more modern recent releases of RPGs tend to have the player just watch a cutscene of an attack being done to an enemy, and sometimes it can feel as though you are just watching the game happen instead of playing it yourself. And with this project, I aimed to recreate that feeling that I had playing the Mario & Luigi series for the first time. I feel as though there's a gap in the market for this sort of game, which hasn't been seen since before Alpha Dream went bankrupt. As for the product itself, it is by no means finished with. You'll see throughout the devlogs a lot of unfinished areas in the game. Not to mention that currently it's just a single open field with a path running down it. I do have a lot of big plans for this game. Like at the top of the path, I want a big sprawling city that act as the main hub for the game, and that this open field is just a starting area where the player learns the ropes. As for planning out the project, it was always going to go in the order that the devlogs have been recorded in. As for my proficiency with Unity, this project is supposed to be a learning experience for me. I really want to learn how to make games, and I feel as though using Unity for 2D games makes the most sense for me, given the tools and also the presets it has at its disposal, with a wide community of game developers that have been using it for years. Obviously, there's still a lot about Unity that I don't quite understand. Quite like how I don't understand why the collision system still won't work. But I feel as though I've got a few things that I can look back on and be proud of during this project. They look like basic progress steps for some people, but for me, it was quite a bit. Going from nowhere to somewhere will always be a big step. But going back to Unity, there are a lot of things that seem simple at first, but then you try and do something simple and it turns out it doesn't really work as well. For example, during my time trying to make the combat, I had an issue where the colliders in the hitboxes weren't being picked up by the code. Thankfully, someone else had already had this issue long before I did, and another member of the Unity community helped them out by improving their code to make the colliders actually register in the code, which in turn helped me fix the issue I had in the console. As for the product itself, I feel as though it's quite relevant, as of recently, Nintendo have been releasing remakes of old Mario RPGs, The Thousand Year Door and Super Mario RPG. These two games also have combat that is deterministic of the player's inputs, which, as discussed before, gives the player more control over how the battles can turn out. So I feel as though a game like this is more than relevant in today's modern gaming industry. In fact, the only thing that really isn't as modern about it is the lack of microtransactions plaguing the game. And I think that's everything I need to talk about. I'll be back to keep working on the game, but in the meantime, thank you for watching.